Florence, Italy, 1475. A child is born who will grow up to paint the most famous ceiling in the world, carve the most recognizable statue in history, and be spectacularly unpleasant about both of them. Michelangelo Buonarroti, sculptor, painter, architect, poet, professional complainer, part-time anatomist. As a child, he was sent to live with a stonecutter's family while his father attended to other matters. He would later claim he practically drank the knack of handling chisel and hammer from his nurse's milk. This was either a charming anecdote or the earliest recorded case of a man taking credit for his own talent and mother issues in the same breath. You decide.
Before we get to the ceiling, we need to talk about Michelangelo's philosophy. Because unlike most artists, he had one, a big one. He believed that the human body was a prison for the soul, that the human soul was trapped inside flesh, desperate to escape, and that the job of art and the artist was to set it free. This is called terribilità, from the Italian for terrifying power. For those who have encountered his sculpted works, it's that sense of the stone being alive. His figures don't just stand there, they strain. Muscles pulled taut, veins visible, every limb caught in a moment of physiological tension, as though the soul inside is pushing against the marble, trying to get out. And how did he achieve this? Glad you asked.
From the age of 16, Michelangelo was quietly sneaking into the hospital of the convent of Santo Spirito in Florence, not for medical treatment, for the bodies. He performed human dissections, meticulously, obsessively, for years. At a time when the church considered this somewhere between deeply questionable and absolutely forbidden, Michelangelo was in a back room with a scalpel, learning how the extensor digiti minimi connects to the little finger, because he intended to carve one. The result? In his sculpture of Moses, the gentle lift of the little finger subtly tightens the entire forearm in a way that is anatomically precise down to the individual muscle. Nobody noticed for 500 years. He noticed. That was enough. Which brings us to 1508. Pope Julius II, a man not famous for taking no for an answer, summons Michelangelo and offers him the greatest artistic commission in the history of the world: paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Michelangelo's response was essentially, "I'm a sculptor." Julius's response was essentially, "ceiling." And so for 4 years, Michelangelo, a man who considered painting beneath him, produced the single greatest painting in human history, largely out of spite. He designed his own scaffolding from scratch, not lying on his back. That is a myth, and it is a comfortable myth, and we are ruining it right now. He stood, neck craned, arms above his head, 12 hours a day, for 4 years. In a letter to a friend, he described his beard growing upward toward the ceiling, paint dripping onto his face like a rich pavement, and his body twisting into what he called a harpy's belly of fatigue and distortion. Michelangelo was not enjoying himself. The ceiling was magnificent. These two facts were not unrelated. But there is something else about the masterpiece he created that wasn't immediately apparent to those who beheld it. Yes, the ceiling tells 9 stories from the book of Genesis, culminating in the most reproduced image in art history, the creation of Adam, God reaching across the void to touch the finger of man. But look closely at the shape surrounding God in that scene, the billowing cloak, the figures gathered inside it. Modern scholars, neuroanatomists specifically, believe that shape is an anatomically accurate cross-section of a human brain. Michelangelo, the secret anatomist, may have hidden the organ of human thought inside the image of God giving life to mankind. He encoded a scientific argument inside a theological masterpiece in the most scrutinized building in Christendom. And nobody noticed for 470 years. Michelangelo had a belief, and it was a big one, and it carried on through to the modern day in his work.
He was, by all accounts, not easy. Sharp-tongued, melancholic, and solitary, he lived in relative austerity and complained constantly about the burden of his commissions, while continuing to accept every single one. He outlived Leonardo da Vinci by 45 years. He outlived Raphael by 44. He outlived most of his rivals, his patrons, his enemies, and several popes. Michelangelo Buonarroti died in 1564, still working, still complaining, still, in all probability, absolutely certain he could have done it better. He left behind the David, the Pietà, the Moses, the Sistine ceiling, and a new definition of what an artist could be. Not a craftsman for hire, but a tormented visionary whose reach, by design, always exceeded his grasp. Next episode, we visit the canals of Venice and ask the question nobody asks about Titian. What happens when you give a Renaissance painter unlimited ambition and the color red? Spoiler, you get a very long career and some extremely dramatic fabric. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like if you learned something. After all, Michelangelo would have painted our logo on a ceiling and refused to be paid.